Welcome back to the deep dive. Our mission here is pretty simple. We take all the stuff you've shared, the articles, the news, and we pull out the really important bits. Think of it as your shortcut to being clued in. And today, wow, the sources are quite a mix. We've got history, big news headlines, but honestly, the thing that's really sucking up the oxygen this week, it's the fallout from Saturday Night Live, specifically that early November episode.
That's right. And we're not just, recapping a TV show. This is really about culture clash. It's watching what happens when a big old institution like SNL bumps up against some seriously edgy, boundary-pushing comedy.
How does it handle it? Or maybe, how doesn't it handle it?
Exactly. That's the core question here. How do these systems absorb that kind of, deliberate shock?
So the main event we're circling is the November 8th episode. Nikki Glazer hosting musical guest Somber. Okay, let's dig in. Starting with just.
Wow.
Why Nikki Glazer right now?
Well, Nikki Glazer was a huge get for SNL, no question. She's absolutely on fire right now, coming off the massive success of the Tom Brady roast.
Which everyone was talking about.
Totally. And her Golden Globes hosting gig was acclaimed too. So much so, she's already booked to do it again in January. She's really at a peak.
And looking back, historically, that peak feels even higher, right? Because hosting SNL as a female stand-up, it's actually pretty rare.
It really is. Over 5 decades, the list is tiny. You've got Joan Rivers, Roseanne Barr, Rosie O'Donnell, Amy Sher, Tiffany Haddish. That's basically it before Glazer.
Wow. So it puts her moment in some serious context.
Definitely. And then you add the musical best, Somber. Just got a Best New Artist Grammy nomination.
Okay.
And here's a wild fact for you. Somber is the first person on SNL, talent-wise, who was born after Kenan Thompson joined the cast.
No way. That really does frame the generational thing, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. So you have this very established show, Kenan's still there, and then you bring in Glazer, who's known for being sharp, maybe abrasive, and somber, this brand new voice. It sets up a collision.
Which is exactly what the sources say happened. They called the episode raunchy, fast-moving, and noted she didn't just do easy jokes about celebrities. She went straight for the controversial stuff.
Yeah, this wasn't just about, landing a few zingers. It felt more like a negotiation from the start. The monologue was the first big moment.
It hit hard, fast.
Immediately. Really abrasive humor. Tackling taboos like human trafficking fears, those Jeffrey Epstein references.
Arresting Ghislaine Faceline.
Right. And even those musings about pedophilia, asking, how do you become one? This is designed to shock,
And then, crucially, what came right after that shock.
Exactly. The very next thing was a sketch. Glazer and Tommy Brennan, a new cast member who actually used to open for her.
Oh, interesting connection.
Yeah, they played siblings, singing love songs to each other, including Boyz II Men's I'll Make Love to You.
So, incest jokes. Right after the pedophilia jokes in the monologue.
Right after, which cemented this idea that the show was intentionally poking at really dark places.
Okay, so the reaction. We have to be impartial here, but what did the sources say? How did people take it?
Well, it was swift and pretty divided. For a lot of viewers, that 1-2 punch the monologue, then the incest sketch was just too much, a step too far.
I saw some comments online, people using words like disgusting, horrible.
Yeah, exactly. One person on X, Twitter, wrote something like, the incest sketch might have been funny, maybe, if it hadn't come right after she was joking about pedophilia. That pairing really amplified it for some.
People are asking if NBC even watched the monologue before they put it online.
Right. That level of reaction. Now, to try and understand the intent, you have to look at what Glazer herself has said about this kind of material before.
Okay. What's her take?
She seems to see it as punching up against taboos. She's said before she finds jokes about things like pedophilia compelling, precisely because it's the sickest thing she can imagine.
But she's not defending it, she says.
No, she emphasizes she'd feel terrible if people thought she was defending the act itself. She sees it as exploring the horror. She even mentioned having to cut similar jokes about Diddy, the Catholic Church, from the Golden Globes gig.
Right, I remember reading that.
Her argument seems to be, if you stick with the bit, you see how she turns it around. She talks about survivors being incredibly strong people.
Okay, but does that defense work for a massive broadcast like SNL, expecting millions of people watching live to just stay through the bit when they're immediately hit with something that feels offensive?
That's attention, isn't it?
Does the artist's intent override the immediate impact on a huge, diverse audience? It really throws the limits of satire on network TV into question.
It absolutely does. It's that friction point. The comic needing to push boundaries to get noticed versus the network needing to keep advertisers and a broad audience happy.
Okay, so SNL became this, like, pressure cooker for taboos that night, but it's still SNL. They still have to cover the week's news, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They didn't abandon that.
Yeah.
The cold open, for instance, it went after Trump, but kind of indirectly.
How so?
It focused on that news story from Thursday
Hmm.
about a man collapsing in the Oval Office during some event about drug prices.
Oh, right.
So James Austin Johnson, as Trump comes out and jokes, "A guy collapsing in the Oval Office, who would have thought it'd be not me?"
Oh,
And he threw in a line about RFK Jr. running out like someone was trying to give him a vaccine. So topical, hitting the headlines, but maybe a bit more contained than the monologue.
And what about the other sketches? Were there any standouts that weren't quite so intense?
Yeah, definitely. They had some great observational stuff. Like they did a parody of the Jennifer Hudson show.
Oh, the bit where she makes guests dance down a tunnel.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
Super specific, very current pop culture observation. That landed really well.
What else?
There was a Beauty and the Beast parody called You're Depressed,
Yeah.
and that really wild sketch with Glazer and Sarah Sherman.
The mechanical bull one.
Yeah. They get drunk, ride a mechanical bull, and it somehow turns into this crazy magical adventure where they're dodging military missiles. Just completely absurd and wide-ranging.
Sounds like classic weird SNL.
Totally. And another one that hit current events was about the air traffic controller shortage, because of the government shutdown stuff.
Right.
But instead of focusing on flight safety, it was about a pilot using the long delays to get advice on his dating app messages.
Okay, that's a funny angle.
Yeah, like he reads out a text exchange. She said, "Hopping in the shower." I said, "Without me." And then he adds, "With the monkey covering his eyes emoji."
Huh. It's those little details, the emoji choice, that shows they're still paying attention to how people actually talk now.
Exactly. That grounded the whole thing. And, oh, we can't forget Weekend Update.
What happened there?
Surprise appearance by Pete Davidson.
Oh, okay.
Came back to talk about this Staten Island ferry him and Colin Jost bought.
Which got endlessly mocked.
Right. Leaned into that.
Mm-hmm.
And also riffed on the big personal news that he's going to be a dad.
So quite a packed update segment then.
Yeah, it brought some familiar star power back.
Okay, so SNL gave us this really intense snapshot, controversy, current events, weird sketches. But let's zoom out. What about the other sources you shared? The ones outside entertainment, like the Boston Globe headlines from that same weekend. Do we see similar pressures there?
It's fascinating when you put them side by side. Take the Sierra Club story. There were headlines about internal chaos, basically an implosion.
Over environmental policy.
Not exactly. It was more about the organization embracing broader social justice issues. And that caused a fracture. Longtime members, different factions. They couldn't agree on changing the mission from just pure environmentalism.
So it's that same dynamic again, a legacy institution facing pressure to adapt and struggling.
Precisely. The same kind of internal tension we saw SNL navigating, just in a completely different field.
And then you had the historical pieces in the Globe,
Yeah.
reminders of much older pressures.
Yeah, pieces marking the 250th anniversary of the Siege of Boston, back in 1775, 1776. The whole city under lockdown, essentially.
Brings a different perspective to current events.
And Ken Burns was quoted around the same time talking about the revolution. His line was simple but powerful. Human nature doesn't change.
That resonates. And then back to more recent history, but still looking back.
Right, the sports pages. Phil Esposito, apparently still mad about the Bruins trading him 50 years ago, November 1975.
50 years. Something stick, huh?
Seems so. And then contrast that 50-year grudge with the scale of money in sports now. Quarterbacks like Tua Tagovailoa having $54 million guaranteed for next year, Kyler Murray $33 million. The economic pressure and scale have just exploded.
So looking at that whole weekend through these sources, SNL, Sierra Club, history, sports, it's quite a whirlwind.
It really is. In just one 24-hour news cycle, you see everything from revolutionary history and institutional fights to billion-dollar sports deals and comedy pushing the absolute limits. And what's really striking is how quickly our culture seems to just absorb all of it.
Yeah, the serious and the shocking all kind of blur together in the feed, don't they?
They really do. It all becomes part of the same ongoing cultural chat.
So if we had to boil it down, what does this snapshot tell us? It feels like the whole landscape, from serious news outlets to late-night comedy, is this constant push and pull between, I don't know, institutional stability and just raw, sometimes shocking entertainment that tests what we can handle.
That seems like a fair assessment, a constant negotiation.
Okay, let's leave you, our listener, with something to chew on. Ken Burns says, human nature doesn't change. If that's true, think about the SNL episode, that really controversial stuff, the jokes testing taboos like pedophilia, incest. Is that boundary pushing a reflection of some unchanging part of human nature, our curiosity about the dark edges?
Or is it just a product of our specific moment? Modern outrage culture, the need to shock to get attention online.
Right. Is that search for, as Glazer put it, the sickest thing imaginable in comedy? Just a new way we express a very old, maybe unchanging fascination with the forbidden. Something to think about.